For decades, one pattern followed Sarah Ferguson wherever she went. Debt, not small amounts. Not the kind of financial missteps that could be quietly corrected. We are talking about catastrophic spending that left banks demanding immediate payment, creditors circling, and the Queen herself reportedly stepping in to prevent complete collapse. According to royal biographer Andrew Loney, Sarah Ferguson's financial problems were not accidents. They were the result of choices. Repeated choices. Choices that showed a complete disconnect between lifestyle and reality. During her marriage to Prince Andrew, Sarah reportedly burned through millions. Staff. Holidays. Parties. Flowers. Luxury shopping. The bills kept mounting, and the consequences kept being delayed, until they could not be delayed anymore. In April 1994, Coutts Bank allegedly demanded £500,000 within 14 days. That is not a polite reminder. That is an ultimatum. And according to Loney, it was Queen Elizabeth II who quietly bailed Sarah out. But that was not the only time. Multiple sources have claimed that the Queen intervened on several occasions, covering emergency payments and preventing public embarrassment for the royal family. These were not small gestures. These were financial rescues that most people will never need once in a lifetime. Sarah needed them repeatedly, and the spending did not stop. One detail stands out among all the others. According to Loney's research, Sarah reportedly spent £65,000 on personal trainers, who were kept on permanent standby. The shocking part? She allegedly used their services only twice in 1 year. Read that again. £65,000. 2 sessions. 1 year. That single detail became symbolic of what critics described as unchecked excess. It was not just about spending money. It was about spending money in ways that made no sense. In ways that suggested there was no awareness of consequence. And while the trainers sat idle, the debts continued to grow. Royal insiders speaking to the Daily Mail claimed that Sarah's spending habits during her marriage were a constant source of tension. Staff were reportedly baffled by the scale of expenditure. Palace officials were said to be increasingly concerned, but the spending continued, because for Sarah, the lifestyle was not optional. It was expected. It was who she was. And the idea of scaling back, of living within limits, seemed almost incomprehensible. Then came the divorce, and with it, the loss of royal financial support. Suddenly, the woman who had grown accustomed to unlimited resources found herself facing reality. And reality was unforgiving. The debts did not disappear. They grew, and the question everyone began asking was simple. How would she survive? Don't go anywhere, because what Sarah did next would tie her to one of the most notorious figures in modern history. Sarah Ferguson made a public admission that shocked royal watchers. She had accepted money from Jeffrey Epstein. The official story was straightforward. She needed £15,000 to pay an assistant during a period of financial difficulty. Epstein provided it. She later apologized, calling it a gigantic error of judgment, but almost immediately, rumors began to surface that the amount was far higher. Palace insiders speaking to the Daily Mail claimed Sarah had repeatedly asked Epstein for money. Not once. Not twice. Multiple times. Andrew Loney later alleged in his book that Sarah accepted hundreds of thousands of pounds from Epstein over time. One source quoted in the research claimed that Epstein eventually became tired of the constant requests. Think about that. A man known for his willingness to provide financial assistance to powerful people allegedly grew tired of Sarah's demands. That suggests the requests were not occasional. They were frequent and substantial. Another source speaking to outlets claimed the real figure was closer to £2 million. Not £15,000. £2 million. Sarah has never publicly addressed those higher figures. The official acknowledgement remains £15,000. But the whispers have never stopped. Then came another allegation. One that refused to disappear. Epstein himself allegedly claimed in emails to his lawyer that Sarah visited him in New York after his release from prison. And according to those emails, she brought Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie with her. He claimed she celebrated his release. That she asked him for help with her charities. Sarah has denied this. Both daughters reportedly say they do not remember such a visit, but flight logs confirm that Sarah traveled with her daughters to Epstein's Bahamas residence in 1998. And that documented trip has kept questions lingering for years, because if she visited once, what stops people from believing she visited again? Then came the most uncomfortable allegation of all. This one from Ghislaine Maxwell herself. According to Maxwell, Sarah was romantically interested in Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell claimed she believed Sarah was trying to put the moves on Epstein. She admitted she felt jealous, annoyed, and sidelined by the situation. She described feeling disrespected. And she said the dynamic between Sarah, Epstein, and Andrew was strange. There is no independent confirmation of this claim. And Sarah has never publicly addressed it. But it came directly from someone who was deeply embedded in Epstein's inner circle. Someone who had no reason to fabricate that particular detail. Someone who was describing a situation she allegedly witnessed firsthand. And that makes it impossible to dismiss entirely. For critics, the Epstein connection represents something far darker than poor financial judgment. It represents a willingness to accept help from someone whose reputation was already deeply troubling. Epstein had already served time when Sarah allegedly continued to seek his assistance. The world knew who he was, what he had done. And yet, according to multiple sources, the relationship continued. Witnesses later claimed they saw Sarah staying at Epstein's properties for years after she publicly claimed to have cut off links. A doorman at one property reportedly said staff would get dressed up when Fergie was staying. That level of detail suggests regular visits. Not one-time emergencies. Regular contact, and for many royal watchers, that pattern of behavior raises questions that have never been satisfactorily answered. Stay with us, because the next chapter reveals just how far Sarah might go to protect herself. As Prince Andrew's reputation collapsed, speculation began to grow. Would Sarah Ferguson ever break her long public loyalty? For years, she stood by him. Through scandal after scandal. Through humiliation after humiliation. She defended him publicly. She remained at Royal Lodge. She presented a united front, but insiders began to suggest that loyalty might have limits. Some sources told the Daily Mail that Sarah would say anything to save her own skin. Others claimed her fate remained tied to Andrew's. That protecting him was protecting herself. More recently, sources told another outlet that American media executives would be eager for a controlled tell-all interview. One that would allow Sarah to distance herself from Andrew without the chaos of his Newsnight appearance. Think about what that would mean. A carefully managed interview with a major broadcaster, where Sarah could tell her side of the story, where she could express regret, where she could separate herself from Andrew's decisions while maintaining sympathy. It would be strategic, calculated, designed to rehabilitate her image while letting Andrew take the full blame. And according to insiders, if forced to choose between protecting Andrew or protecting her own future, Sarah would put herself first. That is not surprising. That is survival, but it does raise a question. What would she be willing to say, because Sarah knows things? She was there for decades. She saw the relationships. She witnessed the decisions. She knows the financial arrangements. She understands the palace dynamics. If she decided to speak openly, the revelations could be devastating, not just for Andrew, for the entire royal family, and that possibility has reportedly kept palace officials nervous for years. Then there are the other rumors. The ones that predate Epstein. The ones that go back to the marriage itself. It has long been claimed that both Sarah and Andrew had affairs during their marriage. But later reports alleged that Sarah's relationship with John Bryan crossed a line even by royal standards. According to those reports, Sarah allegedly welcomed Bryan into Andrew's private study at Royal Lodge after Andrew had already gone to bed. Palace staff were reportedly shocked. It added to the sense that boundaries within the marriage had completely collapsed. Many have pointed to a pattern of relationships. Earlier claims involving Texas millionaire Steve Wyatt. Other unnamed men she reportedly met during overseas trips. While some of these relationships were denied or downplayed at the time, the repeated nature of the rumors created an impression that the marriage had effectively become an open arrangement long before the public divorce. For critics, these stories reinforce the idea that Sarah felt increasingly untouchable, willing to behave in ways that would have been unthinkable for most members of the royal family, especially within the walls of a royal residence. Now, after being removed from Royal Lodge, after years of defending Andrew, after watching his reputation disintegrate, Sarah faces a choice: continue to stand by him and risk being permanently tied to his downfall, or speak out, distance herself, and try to rebuild what is left of her own reputation. The tell-all interview has not happened yet. But the rumors refuse to disappear, and the longer the silence continues, the more people wonder what Sarah Ferguson might eventually say. So let me ask you this. Do you think Sarah will eventually do a tell-all interview? And if she does, do you think she will protect Andrew or protect herself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more explosive royal revelations, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. Thank you for watching.